they were to bring in an outfielder, not a bad option either, especially since you have Brandon Marsh, who has an 8.87 OPS against right-handed pitchers, but just a .378 against lefties. Obviously, we know the Phillies have been platooning Brandon Marsh with a Weston Wilson. We've seen the outfield also just not really have that versatility. Marsh can slide to center field. Yoro is a true center field. You don't have anybody that can play right field. And there's a guy out there that's very versatile that can play all three roles in the outfield. Also has been doing very well for his team, and that is Lane Thomas.
I wanted Lane last year.
Lane Thomas as an outfielder does enter arbitration in 2025. He's a unrestricted free agent in 2026. Now versus righties in his 195 at-bats, he's slashing 210, 270, 344. He's got 14 extra base hits, 5 home runs, 26 RBIs. Versus lefties in his 85 at-bats, he's slashing 329, 414, 518 with 9 extra base hits, 3 home runs, 13 RBIs, and he's got a career-high 25 stolen bases.
That right
now,
there versus lefties is
Lane's
is
traditionally
why.
do well in Philly. We've got some great lanes that have come and played here. For Lane Thomas,
Lane Johnson.
that's all I got.
I was gonna say, is there more?
But I mean, like that's not
Lance
a popular
is
name.
close.
That's not
Lance
a popular
Parrish is
name.
above.
Like to have 2 lanes is still
Lane,
more than
any other lanes?
No.
No, I can't think of any.
But Lane Johnson has raised the bar very high.
I mean, he's a Hall of Famer, so that's a really good
like,
lane.
That's what I'm saying. We got some great lanes here. So Lane Thomas, come join. But yes, looking at his numbers against lefties and righties, Lane Thomas has been doing great. He actually was on the IL in late May and actually has returned better. His batting average increased to a 252. His OPS increased to a 722 coming out of his stint on the IL. And for Thomas, he could absolutely be that guy that he's got the versatility. As mentioned, he can play right field, left field, or center field. He does become a free agent in 2025. So he's somebody that is a guy that a lot of teams are keeping their eye on. And I think for what the Phillies need,
No,
what he
he's
provides,
a free agent in 2026.
Oh, excuse me.
He's
I wrote that wrong.
arbitration eligible year 3 next year.
Yes.
So he's
for
making
him,
5.4 now. You figure next year he's probably going to be in that 6.2, 6.3 roughly kind of range.
Right.
Which is basically what you paid Whit Merrifield this year. So it's not like the only 2 Phillies not on the roster next year are Jeff Hoffman and Spencer Turnbull. So you only have 2 guys not locked up next year. Lane Thomas isn't going to cost you a ton. You already paid Whit Merrifield that basically to go away. So like financially, he makes sense. That extra year of control makes sense. His numbers are down a little bit this year, which I think helps in terms of value you have to give up. The question is, and Tyler and I were talking about this before the show, the Nat, because he's what, 28?
He's 28. Number 28. Is
so
28.
like the Nats are at a point in their rebuild where they're starting to see fruit bear.
Yeah.
Is age 28 the age that you want to get rid of? Do you want to hold him till next year and get rid of him when he's a true free agent? Do you have plans on signing him? I would imagine he gets moved. I think I can tell you a friend of mine knows on good authority that Lane Thomas has been discussed with the Phillies. I think they kicked the tires on him last year as well. So I think he's a guy, and you saw versus lefties because he is going to be the Marsh platoon.
Yep.
Those are really good numbers. So I think Lane Thomas makes a lot of sense. If I had to wager today, right now, who they get, I would bet on Lane Thomas.
Okay.
I think the reason we started with these 2 guys is I think they're the 2 most realistic.
Yeah.
I think Tanner Scott, after Jim's conversation yesterday, is the big splash move. Lane Thomas, I know Tyler loves the WAR stat. He's only a .1 WAR player this year.
Yes.
But last year he was phenomenal.
There's a reason that he's only a .1, and I will indulge you the WAR conversation because in this particular instance, there is a reason he is effectively a league average player.
All right.
Every single year of his major league career, he has averaged, not every year, but he's averaged about 1.2 offensive WAR per season. He's been in the league for 6 years. He has a 7.4 total offensive WAR. He is a less than average defender. And this year, I think he's even worse, and that's probably marred in the fact that he's still probably recovering from the injury a little bit, which doesn't make a ton of sense to me because he's stealing bags. Like, he's got 25 career stolen bases, like we pointed out, but he's not he's never been even a good defender. He's probably a bad defender. But I think the injury may have caused a slip defensively even further. So when he's a 1.2 offensive WAR, but a negative one defensive WAR, it's going to average out to be about a league average defender.
So
and that's
what you're
why
saying is worse than Marsh, better than Schwarber.
Defensively?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
somewhere in the middle.
Everybody's probably better than
We're
Schwarber.
talking about two extremes. Marsh is like the best.
And here's the thing with Marsh. We've kind of talked about this a lot. Marsh is a much better defensive left fielder than he is a defensive center fielder. He is a average to maybe good defensive center fielder. He is a good to potentially great defensive left fielder. And that's why, to me, I think that this type of split would make more sense if you're looking from a defensive standpoint, where Rojas does tend to get more reps or will get more reps defensively in center field, and you split a Lane Thomas, Brandon Marsh platoon.
Yeah, and I like the versatility that Lane Thomas adds, that you even have options there if needed. He can slide into right field. He can slide into left field. He can play center field. The Nationals are a team. We saw the trade with Hunter Harvey to the Royals. That happened before the break. They are looking to maybe make some moves. I know on the trade deadline buzz radar, they've been listed as, or Lane specifically, Laney is his nickname. I didn't make that up.
I'm out. Don't go for this guy now.
No, that's
such a lazy nickname. That's like a hockey guy name.
Why do they just throw E on the end of everybody's name?
They just throw a E or a Y.
Man, but he is somebody that for the Nationals is one of their better players, and it does seem like right now, to your point, Jamie, about where are the Washington Nationals now in their build, they have brought up top prospect James Wood, as we know. They also have Dylan Cruz. I know, good pickup by you, Dylan Cruz. They've been bringing in a lot more youth, and this would be a move that they could make to bring in some prospects possibly. So Lane Thomas could make sense for the Nationals and for the Phillies, which makes it a win-win for us if they were able to add another depth piece and a guy that can give you good at bats and be that platoon piece with Brandon Marsh.